to Reconnect's Professional Careers in Dance Q&A, where we are joined by 4 amazing women that will share their experience into dance, talk about the role they have now, the jobs they have had along the way, and their hopes for dance in Scotland. My name is Anna Kenrick, and I am the Artistic Director at Y Dance. I am a white woman with red short hair and blue eyes. I have a black headband on and I'm wearing a black t-shirt with National Youth Dance Company of Scotland written on it. I am sitting in my office with a white wall behind me with a picture of a pink flamingo. I am delighted to introduce our panel, which consists of Hayley Durwood, Emma Smith, Naomi Murray and Maxine Railton. Before we dive into the questions, it would be great to hear a little about them. Hayley, can we start with you?
My name is Hayley Durwood. I am a white woman with long brown hair brushed behind my right ear. I am wearing a navy blue dress with white flecks on it, sitting in my sister's house with a white fireplace behind me and a blue wall.
Thanks, Hayley. Shall we go over to Emma?
Hello, my name is Emma Smith and my pronouns are she, her. I currently work part-time as a Project Development Officer at Dance Base Scotland, and I also work as a freelance dance artist and researcher and creative learning practitioner. I'm a white woman of Scottish heritage with mid-length blondish hair and brown eyes. I'm wearing round glasses and a black top with blue, yellow and white floral patterns. I'm sitting in my living room where you can see some plants and some lights and my sofa on, the plants and lights on the mantelpiece behind me and the sofa next to me.
Thank you, Emma. Maxine, shall we come to you?
Thank you. My name is Maxine Railton and I am the Senior Lecturer in Dance at Dance Studio Scotland in Glasgow. I am a white woman with black curly hair and green eyes. Today I'm wearing a black top and a choker, which is silver and pink. I'm sitting in my friend's office, which has white walls and a magazine rack behind me.
Thank you, Maxine. And we're also joined by Naomi Murray, whose video camera is not working today with the joys of Zoom. So Naomi, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I'm Naomi. I'm a rehearsal director for Scottish Dance Theatre based in Dundee, Scotland. I am a white woman. I've got long dark hair and blue eyes. I've also have Scottish heritage. My pronoun is she, her. Currently I'm sitting in my office in Scottish Dance Theatre, but what you will see is me in the zoo in Edinburgh, a picture of me in the zoo in Edinburgh with my blue hoodie on with my little son Jackson looking at the monkeys.
Thank you, Naomi. Okay, so we're going to dive straight into the questions. So we'll start with Emma. Tell me your story into dance. Why dance?
So I began dancing at a really young age, and I remember my motivation for starting was because my big sister did it and I wanted to do everything that she did. I first started dancing at my local dance school, so a private dance school in the town where I grew up, and I started doing ballet. I quickly became very, very passionate about it and really excited about it. I would often go to the theatre in Edinburgh to see touring companies like Scottish Ballet, as well as like maybe Rambert or Netherlands Dance Theatre, and I would always remember coming home trying to like remember what I had seen and try and practice it. I'm talking when I was quite small. I think the reason I loved it so much is that it was so expressive and creative. I really enjoy being very physical, so I enjoy taking part in lots of sport, and I always have done, as well as dancing. And I think that dance has that beautiful balance of being a physical thing that you do with your body that's also really artistic and expressive, so you can get those endorphins from being really physical, but you also get the benefit and the expression and creativity that goes alongside it.
Thanks, Emma. Hayley, should we come to you?
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, mine's similar. I started off at a really young age. I grew up in Dundee and I was at Thomson Lang Musical Society. So I was always on stage in things like Oliver, Mac and Mabel. And I really quickly realised that they were putting me in the dance roles rather than the singing roles. So that told me something really early on. But I originally went into psychology when I left school because I thought I was going to be something to do with psychology, educational psychology or something like that. And one night at dance class, somebody had said to me, why don't you train? So I went to the Space for a year, absolutely loved it. Used to see Scottish Dance Theatre a lot at Dundee Rep and suddenly just fell into the contemporary dance world. Went to Laban down in London, and then after I graduated, I ended up working on reception at Laban, and I took a phone call one day from somebody who was looking for a teacher. And I taught loads, but I didn't really have any kind of formal teaching qualification or much experience behind me, but I knew I could do it. And this person worked at Arts Educational School, which is in Turnham Green in London. And I just said, you know, I'll kind of interview for you. And she was looking for teachers and to put a poster up and stuff. So yeah, I said I would go along, and I ended up getting the job, and I worked there for 4 years. And then, yeah, the rest was history, really.
Thank you, Hayley. Naomi, should we come to you?
Yes, I also started at a very, very young age. I think I was 3 years old when I finally persuaded my mum to let me go to the local dance school, Vaughan Gray School of Dance in Cooper in Fife. And I had so much energy. So I was enrolled in all of the different after school clubs. I remember gymnastics and of course ballet, different dance creative classes as well, swimming. And my family also were very, very active. So growing up, I had the role models of both my parents trained, did lots of swim training. So I was kind of used to that kind of rigor, which was really, it was just normal for me. So I was used to kind of the idea that sport could be a profession, and dance as well could be a profession. It was never not an option for me to go down that route. And it just happened that my parents with work traveled abroad quite a bit, and we ended up in Dubai for several years. And there, at that point in the early 90s, there wasn't really much there with regards to dance in the expat kind of the world there. So I ended up auditioning for the Dance School of Scotland and several schools down south in England, but I have family in Scotland. So I ended up going to the Dance School of Scotland, and it was an incredible choice. I met Maxine Railton. She was one of my teachers, which was incredible, having my eyes open to contemporary, because until then it had mainly been ballet and some creative classes. And so that took my training up until my teens. And I went down to London Studio Centre because at that point I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a contemporary dancer or a jazz dancer. So very quickly I discovered that Graham and Cunningham were incredible techniques, and I was in Toto, which was the postgraduate performance company of London Studio Centre, and I met Sally Owen, who was the artistic director at that time, but she was also a joint assistant director at Scottish Dance Theatre. And it just happened that Janet Smith, the AD for Scottish Dance Theatre, we made a piece on us when we were in London. So it was literally, I was in the right place at the right time, and I met the right people. There was randomly an audition for Scottish Dance Theatre a weekend after we were working with Janet, and I ended up becoming an apprentice with them. So I was very lucky. I kind of jumped straight into a job from uni.
Great, thank you, Naomi. And Maxine, same question. Why dance?
Why not? Unlike the others, I didn't start early. I wasn't one of these wee girls that got into age 3 or 4, but I did dance. I actually danced and choreographed before I had an ounce of training. I used to watch any kind of dance on television. I used to love putting on music. My parents were very fond of music, so there was always music playing in the house. And I would frequently commandeer the living room, push the furniture back, and just dance, make things up. My friend at school, my best friend at school, her mother was a dancing teacher and ran a small I would call it creative dance now, her class from her home. So I started with that, absolutely adored it, went once a week, then twice a week, then it builds up till it's taking over your life. And it was she who said to me, if you're really serious about this, Maxine, you should get a classical ballet training under your belt. So I was very fortunate. I lived in the West End of Glasgow to live in very close proximity to the biggest ballet school. Very important ballet school in Glasgow at that time, produced a lot of outstanding professional dancers. And so I went along there, I studied ballet, but still had that feeling that, yes, I mean, I loved ballet and it was a very traditional ballet school, but I thought I'm missing something here. And then a wonderful woman whose husband happened to be teaching at Glasgow University, her name was Patricia Mackenzie, came and she taught this thing called contemporary dance, and that was me sold. My first class was a Graham class. I remember it vividly, and I'm thinking, yes, this is what I want to do. This is the type of dancing that's right for me. So I went on to study at London Contemporary Dance School. My first job was actually in an opera company, not doing contemporary dance at all, doing a whole range of styles in a tour of Germany, Austria and Switzerland. That was after I left London Contemporary. So it had nothing to do with the training that I just had, but was a job nonetheless. Met a lot of interesting people along the way, one of whom was Michael Clark and the dancers in his company. He ran a summer school for emerging dancers stroke choreographers one summer, which I managed to get on. And I met a wonderful Dutch dancer there called Ellen van Schouwlenburg, who now teaches at Laven. And I was so enamored of her as a dancer and a performer. And she told me where she trained. I thought, what is that she's doing? That's not Graham. She was a Cunningham dancer. She trained in Cunningham. And I ended up going to do a postgraduate at what is now Codarts in Rotterdam. It was then called the Rotterdamse Dance Academy, as a result of meeting Ellen van Schouwlenburg. Lots and lots and lots of connections. I ended up spending most of my performing career in Central Europe. So I lived in Holland for ages. I worked in Germany, I worked in Italy, I worked in France, and then came back to work in Scotland in the early 1990s. I was offered a contract with Scottish Ballet Steps Out, which was then the small-scale touring and performing unit of our National Ballet Company. But we had a more contemporary repertoire. I was able to develop my love and my passion for choreography at that time. So I've done the kind of full gamut of going from, the training into the performing, and now, the sort of third stage of my dance career has been as an educator, has been teaching. As Naomi said, I met her at the Dance School of Scotland, where I taught and still do teach on an ad hoc basis. But my main job is as the senior lecturer in dance at Dance Studio Scotland. This was formerly Annie's Land College. It's now Glasgow Clyde College, but the department exists as a unit within that organisation. So I've kind of, I would say, yeah, I've done it all. My big passion is choreography. That's my real love. That is my first love. That will always be my love. And I still get an opportunity to flex my choreographic muscles as part of my role now.
And that has taken us nicely into the next question, because it's lovely hearing all about your paths into dance, because I know these women very well through the Scottish dance sector, but I don't think I've ever heard anyone's complete story from birth to where they are today. So that's lovely. Thank you, ladies. So we've got a diverse selection of jobs within this panel, and so it'd be really nice to hear a little bit about your role and your responsibilities within your job, what you do on a day-to-day basis and how varied it might be. And if you haven't already, maybe a little bit about some of the jobs you've had which have led you to the job you're in now. Hayley, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I guess I moved back to Scotland 10 years ago, which has led me on a trajectory towards my current role. I'm at a bit of a turning point in my career, which is a really good thing. I've just started this week as the CEO of City Moves Dance Agency. So it's a really great place for me to be. I've been with the organisation for 10 years since I moved back to Scotland, and again, doing lots of teaching and choreographing. But the development role really allowed me to get to know all of the partner organisations in Scotland. And it's been a huge change, actually, I think, in the last 10 years. Because when I moved back, we were doing lots of projects for the Olympics, huge amounts of funding of getting professional artists and community dancers together, and really bridging those hybrid skill sets and letting youth dancers, like we're kind of chatting to today, really see how to get to those professional roles. So I really enjoyed that, moving through to the Commonwealth Games, and the organisation's changed so much from being part of the council to being a charity. So it's been hugely interesting to be there for 10 years, and now obviously getting into my new role this week. So my role as CEO is mostly about strategically planning the activity throughout the year, managing the team, managing the budgets, liaising with partner organisations and the board, things like that, and really trying to knit together what we're doing in the whole field of dance in Scotland, and really providing opportunities for you as the next generation of dance artists going forward.
Thank you, Hayley. Should we come over to you, Naomi?
Yes, so I am rehearsal director for Scottish Dance Theatre, which is a very varied job, actually. I used to be a dancer and rehearsal director, which was quite complex, but actually it's a little bit more simplified with just rehearsal directing. So I suppose if I break it down into three kind of areas, we're either at base rehearsing and prepping, either we're on tour, or we're in processing creation. So there's different stages, and all of the different stages require different roles, I suppose. So, but basically every day I'm kind of in charge of the day-to-day schedule. Between myself and our AD, Joanne Clevel, we manage the company of 10 dancers and their journey, their development as artists and as people. We rehearse, we restage, we invite guest choreographers to come in. And it's my role to help support these choreographers, visiting artists, guest teachers, as well as the company dancers as well. So it's a very supportive role. I organise guest teachers, like I said, and also one of the main priorities for me is managing and just double checking that the dancer's health and well-being is really taken care of. So that might be physical, mental, physio massages. It might be some people have to take time out, or it's just a very, very demanding role being a dance artist. It always has been. And I think now there's a newer focus on the mental health of dancers as well, which for me it's very timely, especially with the pandemic that we've just been through, going through. I've got an admin role as well. Part of the recruitment process for new dancers, and I oversee our apprentice programme. We have been historically with London Contemporary Dance School, but next year we're transitioning to work with Northern School of Contemporary Dance. So sometimes I teach as well, and sometimes I lead workshops. So it's varied and exciting.
Thank you, Naomi. Yeah, I think the one thing we all have in common is that we have very varied roles, which keeps it very exciting, and a reason why all of us are in dance for at least 10, if not up to 20 or 30 years or more later. So Maxine, should we come to you?
Yeah, like everyone else, I wear a lot of hats in my role as senior lecturer. My primary role is to run the dance department at Dance Studio Scotland, and it's a big job. We have a lot of students. We have 4 separate year groups. So I have a team of 10 teachers, all of whom are freelance in the sense that they do, although they've worked with me for many, many years, they do many other things. They teach in lots of different places, which is lovely because it keeps things fresh. And they're bringing new ideas and things from outside. So managing the dance staff, managing the students, developing the curriculum, teaching, choreographing, directing our annual productions, the admin that comes with such a role, dealing with college processes, and just it's really all encompassing. It's a really it's a big job, but there's never a dull moment. I'll say that there's never a dull moment. There's always something happening. something going on, something cooking. But probably the most gratifying thing is to see young dancers in training. It's wonderful if they spend 4 years with you and you see them develop over that period. It's wonderful to see what they look like when they come in the door and what they look like when they go out. That's the most satisfying part of the job.
Sorry, yes, I can imagine. Thank you so much. Emma, we'll come to you, and it'd be great to hear a little bit about how you got to where you are, because I know you've probably worked with some of us along the way.
Yes, apologies. I only focused on the very earliest of my dance experiences in my first dancer. I'll try to give an overview. I think what you'll understand from listening to all of us is that careers in dance are really varied, and we all wear loads of hats quite a lot of the time, sometimes on top of each other, and sometimes we swap them out really quickly. And I've been so lucky to have had a really varied and exciting career in the dance industry too, which has helped me to learn a lot and to become really versatile. So my very first experience after graduating from my dance training was I worked in a number of performing opportunities. The first sort of long-term job I had was as a dance development officer on Skye Skye in Lochailse in the Highlands, and I worked there for about a year and a half. And my remit there was really just to try and bring dance to as many people as possible in those communities, often rural communities that have to travel really far to come to a dance class. So we would bring lots of opportunities out to people and create really exciting projects, particularly for children and young people. I moved back to Edinburgh after that job, and I think that's when I first began working with Y Dance. I was really, really lucky to be given a Performing Arts Fellowship through the BBC with Y Dance, which I undertook. That was a real sort of training opportunity for me, and it gave me so many new skills and connections within the dance community in Scotland as well. I worked quite a lot in creative learning settings. I love teaching and sharing my love for dance with other people. So I've worked on lots of different projects for dance organisations and dance houses around Scotland during that period. I also undertook a master's at the RCS in learning and teaching in the performing arts, which gave me even more knowledge to sort of bring to those teaching experiences. But it also gave me a little insight into research and research practices that are really relevant and interesting in the dance sector. So that's something that I've continued to pursue there too. I also, oh gosh, I've forgotten something. I've also, during that time, all of those hats were all layering up. I was a dance artist with Independance, who are based in Glasgow. So we were an inclusive dance company where we had dancers with and without disabilities working together to create and perform work. And I had the most amazing opportunities to perform all over the world, in Asia, South America, all over Europe and the UK, sharing the work that we're creating for audiences. So I was still working and performing at the same time as all of these amazing teaching opportunities. The role that I am in now at Dance Space Scotland, which is the National Centre for Dance in Scotland, I'm a project development officer, which is a little bit removed from some of the performing and teaching aspects of my previous experience. My job there is quite strategic, so we're looking at developing opportunities and networks around Scotland. Part of that is designing projects and programmes, so using the experience I've had of delivering them has really helped me to help bring those experiences to what's needed to design a project and all of the things that need to be considered there. A part of that is bringing funding in to make those projects happen. And I would say that the experiences that I've had as a researcher and through that kind of academic education has really helped to be able to make a case for why what we're doing is so valuable and worthy of being funded. I also work really closely with children and young people still. So I have run the youth dance company at Dance Space for the last let's say 4 years. It's around 4 or 5, I think. So again, working really closely with young people and hopefully reaching more young people in Edinburgh, the Lothians and across Scotland. That job on a day-to-day basis, you know, I do a lot of administrative things too. So whether that's contracting freelance artists and liaising with those artists about what they're going to be delivering as part of a project, and just really thinking about absolutely everything that needs to be considered to make something a success, which I really enjoy. So I often describe it as being really focused on the details and being able to zoom out and see the big picture all at once.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you, ladies. As you've all mentioned, you've all had a varied career from performing and teaching and developing projects with all the administration that comes, balance of strategic work. So I'm sure you have lots of inspirational moments throughout your careers, but can you narrow this down to an inspirational moment that you have experienced in dance? And Maxine, we'll come to you first this time.
I've got so many. It was very, very hard to pick one. Oh, I've got three, but I'm going to pick one. Probably my earliest inspirational moment, and this is going to dovetail with Naomi and I have contacts that she probably doesn't even realise. She mentioned earlier on a choreographer called Janet Smith and a lady called Sally Owen. When I was 15 years of age, I used to go to the Theatre Royal all the time in Glasgow to see whatever dance companies were there. And in those days, the major dance companies from London used to come for a week and quite often bring 2 or 3 different programmes of work. So you could go and see 3 different things in the one week. And I went on a Tuesday evening, I remember it vividly, to see what were they were then called Ballet Rambert, they're now called Rambert Dance Company, but then they were called Ballet Rambert, doing a piece called Cruel Garden by Christopher Bruce. And I was completely and utterly transfixed, blown away. And it was at that moment that I thought, this is absolutely what I have to be doing with my life. And also because it was very theatrical, it wasn't just pure dance. There was singing in it, there was speaking, there was poetry. I had never seen anything like that. I didn't even know that was a thing. It had a profound effect on me. I didn't even know what I was watching. You know, I thought, is this contemporary dance? Is it theatre? What is it? And I was particularly enamored of the first dancer on stage, who happened to be someone Naomi mentioned earlier, Sally Owen, who danced the part of, I remember it vividly, La Luna, and she climbed over a gate. That was her entrance onto the stage, and there was lots of whispering in the background. I can see it even now. And she, like me, had short, dark, curly hair. So, of course, I could immediately identify with her and see myself in that role. I was looking at her thinking, yeah, I could do that. I want to do that. And I never forgot a performance, but the whole production just completely blew me away, so much so that I went back to see it every single night of that week and took anyone else that I could find along with me to come and see this thing, whatever it was. However, many years later, when I was working at Scottish Ballet, I met and worked with Janet Smith, who Naomi also mentioned. Janet came to make a piece for Steps Out, and I met Janet at Theatre Royal 100 years later, and she said to me, oh, I've got someone I'd love to introduce you to. This is Sally Owen. And I thought, oh my goodness. And I was able to tell, it's very rare that you get to tell someone how much their work has affected you. Very rare you get that opportunity. And I thought, this is because, I said to Sally Owen, who I didn't know, it's because of you I'm a dancer. It's because of you I'm doing what I'm doing. So she was as shocked to be hearing that. I think it was wonderful for me to tell her as an adult how much of an impact her dancing had had on me, how much of an impact the production had had on me. And just an amazing chance to tell her what her dancing had meant for me as a young dancer, as an emerging dancer. So that was, yeah, if we're talking inspiration, that's got to be it.
Wow, beautiful story. And let's wish the dance companies came for a week these days, eh? Hopefully very soon they will be back. Yeah. So Hayley, shall we come over to you?
It's so hard to choose one moment, like Maxine was saying. So I'm going to be really cheeky and choose two, but really, really, really quick with them. So one is seeing Pina Bausch on stage in Café Muller at Sadler's Wells, just the most phenomenal moment. You know, when you have tunnel vision anyway, and you're really late to the theatre, you've got the last minute seats, which are so up high, but it's okay because you know that you're going to have tunnel vision. So that's fine. You'll see right down to the stage. And seeing her do the Café Muller walking about was phenomenal. It was like a DVD come to life. It really, really was. And this was about 15, 16 years ago. And another moment which I think speaks true to us all this year was a moment quite recently where a student had been going to a lot of auditions throughout the last year. And auditions have been really tough in the last year because they've all been on Zoom, and we've been trying to give our spaces to people as much as possible so they can get through auditions. And this particular student was getting knocked back and knocked back and knocked back, and then they finally gained a place. And it was just the most inspiring moment because that person had continued throughout this last year to really believe in themselves, to keep themselves going, and have a lot of self-preservation as well throughout that. So yeah, my heart goes out to all young people that have been doing that in the past year, because that moment really rang true. And I thought, how many times is that happening in this country and across the world right now, of those people really having to challenge themselves and dig deep to keep going again and again and again in a room on their own. So that was another moment for me that kind of meant something in the last month.
Thank you, Hayley. Sorry. Yes, definitely a time for all of us and our young people to dig deep at the moment. Maxine, because you had to, I will come back to you if there's one you have maybe similar in terms of young people or children you've taught, but we'll go to Naomi first and then back over to Emma to hear your inspirational moments.
Well, I also had trouble finding more. Gosh, I've got several, but I think the most profound for me was after I actually got the job for Scottish Dance Theatre. I went, it was at the place, I went to a performance of theirs literally the next day. And I remember sitting in the seats going, thank God I did not see these guys before I auditioned, because I was blown away by the variety of the work that I was seeing, by the commitment from the dancers. And at the place, you're sitting quite close to them as well. So you really feel everything that's happening on the stage. But they were doing a triple bill, and it was Rui Horta, I think, and Liv Laurent, who's a Newcastle-based choreographer, and then it was Michael Popper. So there was, it was literally dance and theatre at its finest. And I just remember thinking, I want to do that. Oh my God, I'm so lucky. And then the next week being up in Dundee and just soaking in all the different bodies in the space, because it's not a company that is uniform. It's about different bodies, it's about different physicalities. And even to this day, and I think even more so with Joanne at the helm, it's a company that really champions the personal kind of identity of each dancer, and it's research focused about finding your own identity. And so for me, I was just rabbit in the headlights, just going, oh my goodness, I can learn so much from these my colleagues. And I remember that today, actually. Yeah, that feeling, it was incredible. So yeah, that lasted for a heck of a long time.
You've been at SDT, Naomi?
Oh goodness. 2005 was when I got my first contract as an apprentice, and then 2006 I was with them as that company dancer for a solid 6 years, and then for several years after I guested. So I was freelance in the UK dance scene as well as guesting with Scottish Dance Theatre. So every year, I think except for 2014 and 15, I've danced with Scottish Dance Theatre, or 2016 I came back and was a full-time rehearsal director. So 15 years.
Wow, great. I think it's a great example that there is longevity in careers in dance across working in different organisations, or working in one organisation. As Hayley mentioned, she's been at City Blues for 10 years in a variety of roles. I've been at Y Dance for 13 years in a variety of roles, 3 different roles at Y Dance. Maxine mentioned she's been in a couple of different roles at the college, and Emma's been at Dance Base. So you can, have a solid, exciting career with one organisation as well, in the dance sector in Scotland and UK. So it's a great example. Thank you, Naomi. Emma, should we come over to you for your inspirational moment or moments?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like there are so many amazing experiences I've had as an audience member, seeing amazing work. But actually, when I approached this question, the things that immediately came to mind were the experiences I've had working really closely with other people, and I'm sure I've got lots of these stories. So, to like summarize, I suppose, I think when I began working with independent dance, that was my first experience of really learning about, as Naomi mentioned, the beauty of different bodies, different experiences, different perspectives, and the way that dance can bring all of that together. Whilst working with independent dance, I learned so much there. And this sounds really bad because actually I went to do a little sort of placement with Stopgap Dance Company, who are based down south. I don't want it to sound as though the only inspirational story I had was with this other company, because there was lots. But for some reason, there was just a day where we were doing class together, and there was a huge group of dancers all together. Some people who are wheelchair users, some people who are deaf, some people who have a learning disability. Everyone working together, and the way that the artist taught the class in such a way that every single person had the same amount of like challenge and rigor and scope within the instruction to do it in the way that is best for them and is still really challenging for them, just completely blew my mind. And it just changed the way I think about, I think it has fundamentally changed the way I think about what dance is and who it's for and how we do it. I think that was just one of those little light bulb moments that I think I'm going to take with me forever, because it just is going to fuel everything that I've done since then. It's funny how sometimes just those little moments completely rewire your brain.
Yes, I agree. I had the same when I joined Ludus. I remember thinking, oh my goodness, what have I been doing for the last 5 years? This is what dance in education is. This is educational dance. Children are dancing and learning everything about life and themselves at the same time. Yes, I remember having that in my early 20s. Maxine, we'll come back to you for one of your other stories, just to finish this question off.
Oh, another very profound experience I've had, which again, as often happens in dance, it's like I've got connections to people that Naomi talked about, and that you build up. It's a big world, it's a broad world, it's a varied world, but it's on the other hand really tiny. It's really small. That never fails to amaze me. I mentioned earlier that I had an opportunity to do the Michael Clark Summer School for emerging dancers and choreographers many years ago. And the following year, I went off to Code Arts to do my postgraduate, and I was rabbiting on to anyone that would listen about how wonderful the summer school had been, Michael Clark, blah, blah, blah. I really admired his work, really thought the dancers were just sublime. And it was always a dream to dance with the company, not one that I thought I would realise. And somebody, quite by chance, said to me, yeah, that guy you always go on about, he's auditioning for dancers. This was when I was living in Amsterdam. And I said, Michael Clark. I said, why would he be auditioning in Amsterdam? No, he is. And it was in the oddest, it was publicised in the oddest place, something that probably dancers wouldn't have. It was a very conservative newspaper, and the advert was at the back. So you had to really be looking for this to find it. And it said Michael Clark indeed was auditioning for dancers in Amsterdam because he was premiering his new production at the opening of the Holland Festival, which is the equivalent of the Edinburgh Festival, except it happens in Holland. So I thought, well, I'm here. Why not go along? I had made connections with the company the year before. In fact, it was because of one of them I was in Holland in the first place. So I thought, I'll go along to the audition, and I did, and I got the job. I couldn't believe it. I sat outside after I'd been at the audition and thought, I cannot believe that this is my dream and I'm actually getting to do it. not only am I going to perform with the Michael Clark Company, I'm going to perform at the opening of the Holland Festival. Incredible experience. The production was subsequently toured to the Edinburgh Festival, so I actually got to be and do it in my home country. So my mum and friends over here were able to see me dance with that company. And to bring the whole thing full circle, in my current role, I was at a conference, a dance conference, with a lot of people like ourselves, people who are involved in Dance in Scotland. And suddenly I see one of the former dancers of Michael Clark Company, Matthew Hawkins, walk through the door, and I'm thinking, bizarre. Turns out he's living in Scotland. Matthew now works with me at the college. So I was able to invite him onto the team. It's almost like the whole thing has come full circle. And actually there's been a lot of crossover projects as a result of that Michael Clark contact. I've subsequently worked with Ellen van Schuilenburg again. So actually that little community of dancers has meant a tremendous amount to me at different points and different times in my career, and have been incredibly influential and inspirational.
Thank you, Maxine. And I think that's a really good point for our listeners or viewers to think about. The dance sector in Scotland is very connected. It is quite small, even though it might feel big. It's very connected, and the lovely ladies we have here today, I work with in different capacities through different projects at Why Dance. And we're a caring community up here, and we all we work together and try and kind of cross program. I come into the college, we work with Dance Space, we work with City Moves, I work with Hayley in a different role as well. So we're all connected and coming in and out of each other's lives. As Naomi mentioned, Maxine taught Naomi, and a couple of my team who work at Y Dance were Maxine's students as well. They came straight from college and worked at Y Dance. So it's a very connected sector, which is lovely to work in. Okay, ladies, last two questions. So Hayley, this is quite a big question now. You've just taken on your new role, but this is, what's your ambition for dance in Scotland? Then we'll come to Naomi after Hayley.
That is a huge question, isn't it? The ambition for dance in Scotland. It's lots of things. One is that people that go and spread their wings and train elsewhere do at some point in their career come back to Scotland to touch base, to bring their collaborators, to make connections, because I think it knits all of us closer together as well through artists. That's one thing. Another ambition is that we all continue to wear different hats. And I know it's such a juggle on so many daily basis and meetings basis, but I think that as well enriches the dance scene in Scotland so that we all know what's going on. And I guess the other thing is that we all continue to really communicate with each other, to have sessions like this that Why Dance are presenting today, that we really feel like we can offer advice, but also hopefully that will mean that young people then want to pick up the phone and speak to us, or that send us emails. And that is a really good thing as well, that I think we're all approachable. And that's a good thing about Scotland that Anna was just saying, that we all know each other. And that we all are hopefully very approachable, so that students can get the most out of us as possible.
Thank you, Hayley. Should we come over to Naomi? Same question. What's your ambition?
Yeah, gosh, it's a big one. I think one of my ambitions would be for dance to be prioritised more, or the arts prioritised more in schools and encouraged as a creative outlet. To a really tool for learning right from the grassroots all the way through, with the same importance that like mathematics and physics and English has. That would be a dream ambition, just to kind of shift that societal view kind of, but that's going to take time. And also one big one is staying open to Europe and to the rest of the world, as politically we seem to be closing down. So there was something that I read recently, it was an essay by Rebecca Hilton called Dancerness, and one quote that I pulled from it is, dancers think, feel and act upon the world in a particular way. And I think it really resonates. We generally as dancers and in the dance sector, there's a forward motion of thinking and interacting and communicating, which I think lends itself towards building bridges. And I just think that we as a sector can take the reins of building those bridges regardless of political agenda.
Yes, thank you, Naomi. Yeah, well, while answer myself, share the passion and determination to make dance a subject that is has as much weight as any other subject in the curriculum, and children have the opportunity at every stage of their education to access dance. And I think also, as you mentioned, you know, dance is, as the company that you work for is very focused on, dance is about the arts, and dance particularly is about making better human beings. You know, better human beings who are lateral thinkers, creative thinkers, nice and kind and generous, and, you know, vivacious people. So having the arts is, and dance particularly in schools is a child's right. It's their human right. We believe in. So we will work together, all of us, to push that agenda. I know you all share the same agenda. So Emma, should we come to you and then over to Maxine to finish? Your ambition.
Well, I'm really echoing a lot of what's been said. Some of the things that I had wanted to share with you are my feelings about the fact that I would love to see young dancers training and working and building their careers in Scotland, and I want Scotland to facilitate that. We all know that there are amazing opportunities around the world, but a lot of young people do head away from Scotland, and that's amazing, but we want to create a place that they want to come back to and build careers and build networks. Saying that, as much as it's amazing to create a stronger sort of sector and network in Scotland, I want us to stay well connected with the rest of the world. So for all of the reasons that you've already mentioned. Another thing that you've already mentioned is this idea that dance has always struggled within the curriculum, within the public sector, to be sort of valued, or at least we have to think about what it is we value about dance. How do we create value and what that means? Dance, I think I mentioned earlier, it's so amazing because it does lots of other things, but it has its intrinsic value that's built in. And so we mustn't forget to value dance for dance's sake and dance as an art form, as well as all of the amazing things that it brings for our health and well-being, and the fact that, like you say, it creates the most amazing humans.
Thank you, Emma. Beautifully put. Maxine, we'll come to you.
Much the same, really. I've had an international career. I have worked all over Europe. I've had the opportunity to travel with Scottish Ballet. I went to Malaysia, I went to Israel. You know, I've been all over the place, and that's been unbelievably valuable and so enriching for me as a human being. And I would really, my ambition is really that other young dancers get that chance. I've also done exchange projects with the college, and it's just so important. It's so important. I studied abroad. I'm worried that those things are going to be lost. So my ambition would be to have, you know, an open mind, to remember that as artists, we need to have, you know, I talk about this with my students about having all gates open, being open to everything. We need to be open to the world. All artists need to be open to the world. And so I would hope that that continues and that they're able to have the same opportunities as I did. It was very easy for me to go and study abroad. I literally packed a suitcase and went. You know, I mean, now it would be, you know, it would be more challenging. And I think that's a terrible shame. I think it's so important to be sharing those things across borders. And I think dance is great for breaking down barriers. I mean, I taught workshops in Israel, and I don't speak a word of Arabic. You know, I was in the Arabic community. I also, you know, don't speak Hebrew, but I got by because dance is a universal language. You know, it's amazing what you can achieve even when you don't speak, you know, someone's, you know, the same verbal language, but we have a language that unites all of us, and that language is movement, is dance. So that's really important for me. And the other thing would definitely be, and it's such a bugbear of mine, that dance is taught in schools by specialists. I really get upset that we're just lumped in with PE all the time, because it totally negates the fact that dance has an aesthetic element to it, an artistic, the art, the beauty of dance, that needs to be brought about by people who are trained in dance. It's not, nobody would ever dream of teaching me, of asking me to teach maths. Why would someone who's not a specialist teach dance? I find that really quite depressing, and it's a drum I've been banging for a long time. We don't seem to be getting very far with it, so my ambition would be that that changes, and it changes soon. We are now producing in Scotland some outstanding dance artists, and some of whom are, are working with Anna at Y Dance, and I think, we've got 15, 16 graduates a year that are ready to do the work. And there's still too many barriers for them to get into schools. I'd really like to see that change. I really think it's that the people who are best placed to bring across the value of dance are people who have trained in the subject. I mean, that sounds like, it's a no-brainer for me. It needs to be taught by specialists. They can transmit their passion to young people. And I think, like Anna, it should be a basic human right. I think that dance should be done in schools from primary one onwards.
Thank you, Maxine. And I know there was some really interesting points echoed by us all, but I just wanted to give an opportunity for anyone else to comment on something that maybe somebody else has heard that has spurred on a new thought. If there's anything else on that question anybody would like to put in before we move to our final question of the day. No, I think we all share a very similar value system and passion for the subject throughout a child and young person and adult lifetime. And I know together we're all trying to do it in our own strategic ways and coming together and ensuring young people have different opportunities. So if there are the young people who are watching, these people you see, and also Naomi, who you hear, are, great people to get in contact with at Dance Space, City Moves, Clyde College. So on that, for our final question of today, what advice would you give to young people thinking about a career in dance? And I think everyone started a question. So Emma, we'll come back to you to start, and then we'll head to you, Hayley.
Thanks very much. There's a few things that I think are really important. I'm sure amongst us all we'll cover a lot of ground. So some of the lessons that I would always want to pass on is love it, be passionate about it and love it. That will fuel you forever. I can't stress that enough. It's if you love it, it's the right thing to do. It will be difficult because all careers are difficult and all careers in the arts are also difficult. But if you love it, then that helps. It doesn't mean that you should sacrifice, for example, your integrity or your pay. If you love it, you still deserve to get paid for it. And that's something that we all fight for a lot. There are a lot of unpaid opportunities as you're going through your training in your early career. Measure for you what is worth it, what you gain from that opportunity. If you're not being paid for your time, if you're a professional, if you've maybe left your training, if you're not being paid for your time, just measure up, weigh up for yourself what you get from that experience compared to what you give. Because I really believe that everyone should be paid fairly for their work and their time and their energy and their experience. Work hard. You get as much out of something as you put into it. So it doesn't matter where, I believe anyway, it doesn't matter where you trained, because it's what you put into your training that you get out of it. I know we have a bit of a hierarchy of where you trained defines who you are as a dancer, but I don't believe that that's true. I just believe it's something that we all, or some people, buy into. So if you put a lot in, you will get a lot out. Another thing just to add is also, as we've evidenced, I believe, be versatile and lean into your versatility. Careers in dance and the arts in general are shifting. It's like shifting sands. Things change, and take opportunities as they come, and they might, as I've found, lean into different parts of your skill set and explore that, and that's valuable. and you get so much more from it. At the end of that experience, you're going to have so many skills that you can draw on that just make you the most amazingly rounded professional within dance. That's always a beautiful thing.
Thank you, Emma. Wonderful start. Hayley, we'll come over to you, and then over to you, Maxine.
Mine is very similar to Emma's. I once went to the Royal Festival Hall to see Jill Clark speak, and Jill Clark is unfortunately no longer with us, but she helped set up independent dance with Siobhan Davies down in London. She's an amazing dancer, choreographer, educator. And I know her from Laban, and she was talking about her career, and somebody had asked her, you know, how did you get to be Jill Clark? How did you get to do all these things in your career? And she'd said, well, I didn't know where I was going really. I just took great opportunities when they came along. And I think that really stuck true with me. This was maybe 20 years ago I heard her say this, and I've always lived by that throughout my career, and always would give that advice to new dancers or young people at the moment, and just say, no matter what opportunity comes towards you, grasp it. You know, it might be something that you're not particularly interested to, a workshop, an opportunity to see a company, grab it. It might not be your thing right now, but you might need those skills in 6 months, 3 years time, and go, oh, if I'd never done that, I wouldn't have actually known how to do that at all. So say yes to things and grab opportunities, and be really curious about those opportunities as well. That would be my advice.
Great advice. Curious is my favourite word of all time. Thank you, Maxine. We'll come to you, and then Naomi will finish with you.
And that was one I was going to start with, the curiosity. You have got to have curiosity. You simply have got to have curiosity to be an artist. I think that's really important. You've got to have resilience. You get a lot of knocks. I think people, young people today, don't expect it somehow to be as tough as it is, as hard as it is. And you need to grow a few layers of rhino skin along the way. You will get disappointments. There will be setbacks. So you need to build resilience. It's something that I really drum into my students. Not everything just falls in your lap. You have to put your hand forward for opportunities as well. Sometimes I find, actually no, often I find that Scottish young people can be very backward at coming forward. They're not very good at, you know, putting themselves out there. And I think that's really important now. And there are a lot of platforms that allow people to do that. Don't be afraid to say that you're good at something or that you can do something. Yeah, if you can do something, say you can do it. I think that's important. This thing of versatility, open-mindedness, you've got to be open-minded and you've got to be versatile. I think that today's talk that we've had will, you know, get across to people how many hats we are actually wearing between the 5 of us. You know, did we always have those skills? No, probably not. Sometimes you just learn them along the way. You pick them up as you go along. I never dreamed for a second I would be doing what I'm doing. So I actually think that being open-minded, being willing to learn. But the other thing that's crucially important, and I hope that I brought across, is people, the amount of people that I keep coming across in my life again and again. Paths have crossed. People are important. Remember those people on the way up, because you're going to need them. You're going to need those contacts. Contacts in this business are super, super important. And I've had so many contacts in my career people that have opened doors for me, and I haven't forgotten it. And in some cases, I've been able to open doors for them or make opportunities for them. So remembering the people who have helped you along the way, people that have made opportunities for you, and reciprocate where possible. And never forget to say thank you. That's important.
Excellent advice. Yeah, I think back to the, you know, we work in a small sector comparatively to other sectors, even across the UK, and you will bump into people all the time. So kindness, being polite and being professional is key, because you'll never know when you see those people again. You know, college tutors at Northern are still out working in different, roles, and I see them now at conferences, and I'm not the student anymore. I'm a completely different role, and it's always think what impression you're leaving. Exactly. Naomi, we'll come to you.
Something that really resonated with me was the curiosity that Maxine was talking about. For me, it's at the heart of a dance artist's motivation. It keeps alive the passion, and I think passion is also one of my biggest pieces of advice, to understand, or to maybe it's to ask the question, why am I dancing? Because and I put it into context because I had a moment, it wasn't a moment, I had a wobble in my second year at uni, where I realized that I was dancing because I'd gotten on a train, the dancing train, at a very, very early age. And I suddenly realized at the age of 20 that I hadn't redefined to myself why I was dancing. And I was always very good at it. So I was always encouraged, and I was dancing for my mum or for my teacher or for somebody else. And when I had that epiphany, and I really kind of dug deep, and I thought, okay, well, do I want a career in dance? And it really made me confront myself. And it was a difficult couple of weeks. And at the end of it, I was thinking, I can't not dance. It's part of me. It's part of who I am, my identity. I love the rigor of the physicality, the constantly having to transform and evolve and meet ever shifting parameters and goals. It's a transformative job. So I think if you like challenge, if you like rigor, if you like meeting people, then it's probably an ideal match. But it's the why. I would come back to the why, because if you have passion, you have drive, you have curiosity, and there's an inherent need or want, then it's vocation. And it's not a job, and that's the best sort of work. And self-belief. Believe in yourself, because your family and friends will, of course, but when it comes down to it, you have to believe in yourself. And there was so many different people that I came across in my early training who kept giving me facts about the percentages of people who were going to make it into the career. I was like, well, that's great, but it doesn't mean anything to me, because I'm going to just keep plugging away, because this is what I'm doing. This is my path. And I think it's just believing in your path. So, yeah.
Oh, yes, wonderful words to close with. I remember having the same feeling when I was in training and being told that only a certain percent of people went into, certain dance companies that were probably seen as the end of your career, or, if you, and I remember thinking, well, we'll see. And now at 45, I am now, and I'm still here plugging away in dance. I think, well, you know what? I'd like to go back sometimes and go, just believe
Exactly. And there's so many different pathways.
There's so many different pathways in dance. And I hope our young people watching, or anybody watching, has gleaned from this discussion that there is so many different ways. We all started as dancers. We all started as professional dancers, and some of us, Emma, I know you still perform and still as a dancer and a dance artist, and we've all gone into different paths, but still we choreograph, we teach, we educate, we use our strategic heads on a daily basis, whether it's strategically planning a timetable or a business plan, whatever that means. So a multifaceted skill base that we all have, which is a joy and an exciting career to have. I know I will stay in probably youth dance. I think I'm the only woman in the world who's only ever worked in youth dance since I was 21. 23 years of working with only young people. Yeah, so you can't be specific. So ladies, we'll finish off now. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to you four amazing women who I'm very have a lot of admiration for. Thank you for taking this time out to speak with us and speak with young people in Scotland and the UK. I know that if any young people who are watching or people who are watching have any questions, these ladies are very approachable and can be found at Dance Base, City Moves, Clyde College, or at Scottish Dance Theatre. Or if you have any questions, you can contact me, Anna, at ydance.org, or come to our website, www.ydance.org, and I can pass on some questions for our panel if needs be. So thank you, ladies. If you'd just like to turn your mics off and you could say goodbye to our listeners, that would be lovely.
Thank you very, very much for having me, and it's lovely to see you all, ladies.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you, Anna. It's been lovely. Thank you all. A lovely discussion.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks. So nice to see you all. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you very much. I hope that's been beneficial and useful to all you budding dancers out there, and I hope to get the opportunity to train some of you.
Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Goodbye.
Cheers.